But a team who really nailed the strategy today, Owain, is Haas. I've got to give it to them for their Masterclass of a strategy. Esteban Ocon started P11 and finished P7. Ollie Behrman started P17 and finished P10, as opposed to how I said in the intro, where he had a lights to flag victory. But after something of a disaster for Haas in Melbourne, and obviously there was a lot of talk going into China that they basically had a systemically flawed car. They've pulled it out of the bag today and secured some much needed points in China.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite surprising because they didn't particularly qualify well. Obviously, Ocon got 11th. But Behrman was down in 17th, and I think it was sort of one of these things. If you kind of expected more of the same, it was a bit sort of slightly topsy-turvy qualifying. There were in that you had cars out of positions in positions that you didn't necessarily expect, just due to the sort of evolution of the circuit. And I think potential. I was about to say potentially it could be, down to the slightly colder weather, but I don't really think that's how it. That's not how it panned out. I mean, otherwise they'd have been maybe better off in Australia. But I think it's kind of a similar to Ferrari. Maybe they just had pace that they couldn't unlock. Um, and I think to be honest with you, like a lot of it is they kind of. I think they must have got the strategy right off the bat, knowing that they're going to have to drive to the tyre. Unfortunately, I don't remember what they started on, but it really did. They drove to it and made sure that they didn't sort of burn out or grain up the tyres, and they've come on strong at the end. Not getting into too many accidents or anything like that. And as you say, it's paid off for them and got them and got them sort of 2 points finishes. Um, in a battle that we were sort of expecting them to be right at the back. So, yeah, it's honestly it's worked out so well for them. Again, they stuck with the one stop, um, and that very clearly was the reason that they managed to get where they are. And I think what actually helped and what sort of fended off maybe some of the racing bulls and things like that was that there wasn't that much deg at the circuit. That's the thing. You had the graining, but actual tire drop off from load we didn't see. I think just due to the lack of abrasiveness of the new surface. And I think that's maybe part of the reason that they were able to do this is that they weren't having to fend off from people behind because the tires weren't going off, and that combined with their maybe slightly more conservative way of going about it, because they did sort of creep up there as far as I saw, um, and that's really paid dividends for them.
Yeah, it certainly was more of one of those anonymous kind of results where it's like you reach the end of the race and you're like, oh wow, so and so's here. We did obviously see a few overtake attempts from Oliver Behrman going into the hairpin. What would have been a classic Daniel Ricciardo last of the late breakers moves had he not locked up going into the hairpin. But still a great move nonetheless, and it's good to see the confidence that some of these rookies have got, particularly. As opposed to maybe some of the other rookies in other teams and situations.